Hi everyone, welcome back to Sailors Creek Battlefield Historical State Park. My name is Ranger Lee Wilcox, and today we're going to continue on with part 2 of our Rocking Chair Reflection series of programs. This one's titled Civil War Nicknames. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. If you have a chance, be sure to take a look at part 1, which is an introduction to the subject of the Civil War nicknames. If you're rejoining us, thank you, and again, welcome. So let's get right into it. The next person we're going to talk about is probably the most reviled figure of the entire Civil War, and this is going to be Benjamin Butler. He's appointed military governor of occupied New Orleans, and just rules with a very heavy-handed fist, very cruel to the residents. He issues the controversial Order Number 28, which essentially is addressed to the womenfolk of New Orleans, telling them that any woman that shows contempt towards a federal soldier will be treated as a prostitute. Now you can imagine the controversy that caused for the citizens of New Orleans. But when that information hit the newspapers, it produced outrage in both northern papers and southern papers, and it garnered him the nickname the Beast, so Benjamin Beast Butler. But that's not the end of the story with this fellow. In charge of the homes, the private homes there in New Orleans, he was supposed to guard them with the troops he had under his command, but he was known to have a penchant for the sticky finger syndrome, going into these homes and pilfering some of the treasures, the goodies that he saw that fit his fancy, namely silverware and whatnot. And so another nickname that got tagged on him was Spoons. So if you can imagine, Benjamin Spoons Butler. Next up is Roger W Hanson, Confederate commander. He has a wound that he acquired during the Mexican War, before the Civil War, that leaves him with a permanent stiff-legged limp. So he gets nicknamed Bench Leg. That's just wrong. Bench Leg. Something he can't be helped. Anyways, this next fellow, you can tell by the look on his face, this is going to be William Emmett Jones, Confederate commander. He's known to have a very sour disposition, not easy to get along with, just always in a bad mood, a negative Nelly sort of individual. And so he gets nicknamed Grumble. So you have Grumble Jones here. Then we have Nathan George Evans, another Confederate commander. He gets the nickname Shanks, of all things. It's a West Point nickname from when he was a cadet. He is a very, very tall individual, and he had very, very skinny legs, so his classmates nicknamed him Shanks. Along those same lines, this next person, Richard Ellucian Page, his nickname is Ramrod, and you can tell from his picture it's sort of fitting. He had a very stiff disposition, proclivity to come across as being arrogant, you know, having airs about him. And so this air of authority garnered him the nickname Ramrod. So we have Ramrod Page. Now, believe it or not, this fierce-looking individual's nickname does not fit the photo. Jerome Bonaparte Robertson, another Confederate commander, is overly cautious, a worrisome individual, concerned about the welfare of his soldiers going into battle, a motherly type, and so his troops ended up calling him Aunt Polly. Hopefully people recognize this figure, but this is Jeb Stewart. His name, Jeb, is actually a nickname. It's, his full name is James Ewell Brown Stewart, and it was shortened to Jeb. A brilliant cavalry commander, flashy, flamboyant, and he earns the nickname the Bold Cavalier. But there's also another nickname that not many people know about. So during his West Point days, when he had to be a clean-shaven individual, his classmates tagged him with the nickname because of what they considered a weak chin. This is Jeb Stewart, believe it or not, without his beard. Because he had a weak chin, he got nicknamed Beauty, of all things. Just one of those mean-spirited classmate nicknames. So here's Jeb Stewart, Beauty, and you can imagine the moment he got a chance to grow a beard, he grew it. Next up is Federal Commander. This is George Sykes. Much like Abner Doubleday from our first part of the presentation, George Sykes is very slow to get his troops into battle, and he earns the nickname as a result as Tardy George. This next fellow, John B Magruder, all right? You can tell by the uniform, John B Magruder is all about the flash. He likes the fancy uniforms, ladies' man, playboy type personality, heavy drinker, lavish lifestyles, always a good party at his tent, and the people surrounding and coming to visit him. So as a result, he gets nicknamed Prince John. This next one, pretty obvious when you see the picture, but check out the whiskers on this guy. This is Ambrose Burnside. When he was first seen with these whiskers, he got dubbed with the nickname Burnside. People referred to these types of whiskers initially as Burnsides, but it got corrupted over the years and it's still in existence today. We call them sideburns. This is where it originates. Then we have Nathaniel Banks. This fellow here, who kind of looks disheveled, and probably justifiably so, at the outset of the war, during the Valley Campaign, where Stonewall Jackson cut his teeth and made his reputation, Nathaniel Banks was a constant foe and was constantly defeated by Jackson over and over and over again. So much so that he had a tendency to leave behind all kinds of provisions, ammunition, anything an army would carry with them. As soon as he got beat by Jackson, he would cut and run and leave all these supplies behind over and over again. And as a result, he got nicknamed Commissary. Commissary being another type of name for a store, like a post-exchange PX in the military. So, Commissary Banks. We're getting close to the end here. We've got two more left. This one, I'm going to have to read this gentleman's name. I can't help it, but it's just one of those names. This individual is named Prince Camille Armand Jules Marie de Polignac. Need me to say that again? Prince Camille Armand Jules Marie de Polignac. All right, this guy is a French nobleman who came over the Atlantic to fight for the Confederacy of all things. A professional soldier, and again, like I said, he's French nobility. Survives the war, goes back home, and ends up fighting in the Franco-Prussian War in 1870-71. Just a career life soldier. But because nobody could pronounce his name, his soldiers, the Confederate troops that served under him and who loved him, very talented individual, tagged him with the nickname Prince Polecat. Now, I'm not sure if you knew that a polecat was another name for a skunk, but de Polignac, polecat, sounds close. The nickname stuck. Last but not least is our popular figure here, John Pelham, artillery commander for the Army of Northern Virginia under General Lee. During his fighting at Fredericksburg, he does such a miraculous job commanding a battery, especially when things were not looking the best on the particular flank of the Confederates at the outset of the battle. His command of that battery was of such magnitude that General Lee, after the victory was secured, dubbed him the Gallant Pelham. His nickname is the Gallant Pelham. You could tell, good-looking fella, clean-shaven, quite the ladies' man. John Gallant Pelham did not live to see the end of the war. In fact, he was killed shortly after the Battle of Fredericksburg on a routine patrol when they ran into some enemy combatants. But what's interesting about this fellow is that at that period of time in history, in American history, if you were devoted to someone on the female side and you were killed, died of disease or anything like that, the lady folk would go into a period of mourning. They would dress completely in black. And it was generally someone that was, if it was not a wife, it was a fiance or someone that was very, very intimate with that individual. Well, you can imagine the controversy that was caused when, at the funeral for the Gallant Pelham, 3 women showed up dressed in mourning. 3. Talk about scandalous. Well, that's it for our program, Civil War Nicknames. I hope you've enjoyed it. We do have some more programs planned for you, and we'll come up with those a little bit later. In the meantime, have a good day. Thank you for joining us, and give us feedback. Let us know if you enjoy this whole prospect of doing these video presentations from the various state parks. Thank you, and have a good day.